We joined this fledgling housing co-op in 1996 that was founded by Donella Meadows. Dana had this idea of a community that would intentionally manage land, lower its carbon footprint, and support sustainable farming. And so the community of people got together, 23 households, and purchased 275 acres of land here through an agreement with the Upper Valley Land Trust, the Vermont Housing and Conservation Board, and some private donations. And Carrie and I putting in our own stake, the community established subsidized housing for a farm family and put the land into agricultural conservation with the Upper Valley Land Trust. The community owns 275 acres, about 200 of that is in forest, and that's in current use and is also currently enrolled in CSP and has been enrolled in EQIP in times past. We, as Cedar Mountain Farm, lease 60 acres from the community, which is primarily the agricultural land, which consists of about 45 acres of hill pasture, some of it, as you'll see, quite steep, and then about roughly 15 to 17 acres of tillable acres, which we have in hay and grazing. And then we also manage about an acre and a half as market garden currently. Our primary product here is value-added cheese that we make on site. So we milk about 20 cows, and generally have about 65 head total. We also raise bull calves as steers and sell all that beef right through the farm stand here. And then our other income stream is compost. We have a bedded pack compost system. We buy in a whole lot of shavings, but we consider that a fertility input, and also, of course, the major carbon ingredient to our compost product. We're mainly relying on intensive management grazing to get fertility back up onto the pastures, having the cows bring the fertility back up. And from that point of view, we even see the grain that we buy in as a fertility input. We enrolled with the EQIP program in 2008, and we did about 10 years of practices. You'll see a covered manure structure, improved compost stacking area, and a lot of drainage around the buildings as well. We're not a certified organic farm, but we've always managed our land according to organic standards. Carrie has some pretty serious quibbles with the organic standards in relation to herd health management. We were doing like a traditional organic tillage system, except that we had evolved some systems where, particularly through studying modern day Amish, where we were using some very antique mid-20th century and also some brand new implements from Amish manufacturers to do all the cultivation and tillage with teams of small draft horses. And we are still utilizing the horses, but primarily just for compost delivery, because the no-till that we're doing, because we have the dairy farm, is heavily reliant on the compost as a mulching material. So we're putting out a lot more on a smaller garden than we used to, and using the horses as the delivery system. Why we've moved more towards agroforestry in these last 2 years. Over the years, I think we really came to start thinking about context with the really taking the long view and thinking about what the history of this place is, going back, centuries, and thinking about pre-settlement, pre-European occupation of the land, and without trying to idealize, just recognizing that the Abenaki people were essentially viewing the old growth forest as food forest. It was, the thing that provided everything that they needed to them. And then just thinking about what was the ecology, what was the level of ecological functionality of that old growth forest that once existed in the very place we're standing. And what if we tried to delve into that? And a lot of it's work of the imagination, because we have less than 1% old growth in Vermont. Just delving into what was that ecosystem functionality and health, and a true forest biome, because we have very few forests in our regeneration and our regrowth that actually demonstrate to us what a really truly healthy, functioning, really ancient forest biome looks like. And could we take that as our measure for soil health in this time where we really need to not only be finding ways of sustaining, but we really need to be regenerating our landscape and our soils. To us, it makes perfect sense, even as a production farm that's focused on annuals and on grass and milk production, that even if we're looking in the long term, that it would be that if we do some alley cropping or mass tree production, that things like nut oils and other fruits and crops that could be a perennial system, we might not be getting production value out of that anytime soon. But if we can be thinking about how to integrate those systems into our current production system in a way that they're already just enhancing the overall functionality of our production systems by enhancing biodiversity, by sequestering more carbon, by cooling some of our environments. Maybe 2% of Vermont was beaver meadows and some places where giant trees had blown over, but this was a place that wanted to grow forests. So anytime we're managing a grassland in Vermont, we know that it's a highly managed grassland. We have areas within our pasture system that are quite wet. You know, I used to kind of tromp through it and think, oh, this is a nuisance, you know, I'm getting my boots wet. I needed to understand how water was moving through the landscape to understand the landscape and its essential as a cycle. And you know, and then once you start thinking about the water cycle, then you realize, well, we're not just trying to sequester carbon, we're trying to restore the nitrogen cycle. Well, we're not just trying to be more self-sufficient and intelligent about the way we apply nitrogen to the land, we're trying to restore that cycle, and on like that. So once I started valuing those wet areas and making cow exclusion zones, those areas immediately started responding by all the things that the cows were going in there and kind of nibbling on, like osiers and willows, or trampling like cattails, or even you know, a lot of different flowering forbs all start coming back immediately. Woodcocks start nesting in there, things of that nature. And so then the feeling then is that when we're holding water, slowing water, and restoring habitat, that's enhancing the pasture surrounding the area that is the production area, and creating, you know, recognizing a resource rather than just thinking this is a waste area.
Is there a conservation enhancement that you feel in terms of your operation is missing?
I hear a rumor that alley cropping might be coming down the line, and I think that would be a terrific next step for us.
I wanted to confirm that rumor. It is turned on, and we're looking at in fiscal year 23 turning on the multi-story farming, forest farming practice.
Thinking about the next generation in 20 years when somebody else is standing here, hopefully giving a tour, and that food forest is already something that we're going to go out and look at.